Hello, everybody. It's Josh Kuryevsky from Down Under. I'm in Sydney, Australia. We're at the YOW conference, and I am here with my new friend Brian Beckman. Brian, pleasure to have you here.
Great to be here, Josh. This is my second YOW conference, and it's the best conference in Australia. One of the best in the world. I've been to several InfoQs and other conferences, and this is definitely in that category.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. You are a principal engineer in robotics at Amazon.
Yes.
And you're a physicist, too.
That's correct, yes.
So we have a lot of interesting things to talk about.
We do.
We were going to start off with Richard Feynman.
Yes, Richard Feynman. I first met Richard Feynman when I was 8 or 9 years old. I didn't know who he was at the time, but I later pieced it together. The story is this. My parents sent me, I was an unruly kid, so they sent me to math camp to get rid of me for a summer. And the teachers there wasted our time. You know, this is the point of camp, is to burn up that excess energy, childish energy. Wasted our time teaching us how to do square roots and cube roots the longhand way.
Wow.
It's an awesome thing, and it takes a whole summer for an 8 or 9 year old to learn this. And then at the end of the course, she said, kids, I have a treat for you, and brought in this guy with this very thick Brooklyn accent.
Oh.
And he said, okay, kids, you spent all summer learning how to do square roots the hard way. I'm going to teach you the easy way. He says, let's say you want to take the square root of 6. 6 is your target number. Now take a guess. Is 2 the square root of 6? No, that's too small because 2 squared is 4. Is 3 the square root of 6? No, that's too big because 3 squared is 9. So why don't you start with 2? Take your target, divide it by your guess. That's 6 divided by 2, that's 3. And average it with your guess, which is 2. So 3 plus 2 divided by 2, that's 2.5. Guess what? That's a heck of a lot closer to, 2.5 squared is a heck of a lot closer to 6 than is 2 squared. Do this a few times and you'll have 1 decimal place every time you do it. And so then he went and taught us to do cube roots the same way. And then he asked, okay, kids, you got any questions for the teacher? Told us who he was, a professor of physics at Caltech, named Richard Feynman. And he says, do you kids have any questions for me? I raised my hand and I said, sir, yes. I know about c, the speed of light, and h bar, the fundamental constant of quantum mechanics, and I know about g, the gravitational constant. I know about e and pi and I. And I also know that all these elementary particles like electron, neutron, proton, pion, kaon, muon, they all have these masses that are like random. So over here we've got these numbers that are fundamental constants of nature, and over there we've got these random numbers that you got to measure in the laboratory. How do they relate? I want to calculate the masses of those particles from those fundamental constants. And he said, kid, that's a great question. And if you solve it, I personally will make sure you get the Nobel Prize. And since that time, I went back and I chased him down at Caltech when I was 12 or 13 and hung around him for a summer. I came back and interned at Caltech when I was 17 and 18, 2 summers. And then I went to Princeton Graduate School for no better reason than that's where Richard Feynman went to graduate school.
Wow. So he was an inspiration.
More than an inspiration, I shamelessly downloaded him and copied his methods and even copied his style of thinking.
Fantastic.
And he was very generous with his time. He liked me because he remembered I asked this question, which, by the way, has still not been answered. Nobody knows how to do that. But he thought that was a great question. And coming from the mouth of a kid, he thought it was even better. So he remembered me and liked me and was very generous with his time.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Well, so you work at Amazon, and
Yes.
That fascinates me. I think it's an incredible company.
Yes.
I have lots of questions. So you have a story we were talking about the other day. We're here in Australia for 2 weeks. We spent
Yes.
a lot of time together. So,
Yes.
you were talking about a vendor discount and what you did to make customers more awesome.
Oh yeah, this is I found out that Amazon, famously, one of their famous principles is customer obsession, and I found out how seriously they took this. I had retired from Microsoft, and a friend of mine called me up from Amazon and said, I need you. Eric Meyer and I had worked on this reactive framework, and he knew about this, and he called up and he said, I need you to come and make some of the back-end software at Amazon more responsive. We have a particular process where a vendor discount is entered into the system, and it takes too long to get to the website. I'm not going to tell you exactly how long, but it had many steps along the way into the data warehouse. And if you have experience with this, you know how long it takes. And there's no fundamental reason for the computation to take that long. So I said, okay, great, I'll come and do it. I brought Clojure into the company. I solved this problem using RxJava under Clojure. We had a great time. It took me about 2 months with a team of very talented and motivated engineers to prototype this thing. And I'm sitting in the presentation to the vice president of that division and showing him this stuff. So here we go. We enter a simulated vendor discount. My programmers wave their hand. I got it. I got it. I got it. And a guy in the front row says, and I bought it. This was not pre-programmed, but he bought the item that I had faked the vendor discount
With the vendor discount? Mm-hmm.
Yep, in 10 seconds. So this reduced a process that took way too long into 10 seconds. Then the vice president scowled at me and he says, how much is this going to cost my company? And I said, that's really good. I don't know the answer to that. And I went off, and it took me a couple of weeks in the finance department to chase down all the components and do a survey over the sales records. And I went in and I put the badge on his desk and I said, I just cost your company $39 million.
$39 million.
$39 million, because we're getting a discount to the website faster. So the prices go down sooner than they would have gone down. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he smiled. The guy had completely gamed me. And he says, fantastic, that's $39 million. We are not overcharging our customers. We love it. Go do it again.
Wow.
So they mean it.
They mean it.
What other company could you go in and speed up some process and cost the company $39 million and they love it?
Wow.
It's
awesome.
pretty rare.
They really are.
They really mean it.
Customer obsession.
Yep.
And then another one is Bezos is famous for saying it's that Amazon's one of the best places in the world to fail.
Yes.
To innovate, to pioneer, to fail. Failure is encouraged. It's going to happen. Can you say more about that?
Yes, certainly. Amazon is constantly doing experiments. We're looking for ways to, the business is dead simple. We're trying to deliver things faster, safer, cheaper to the customer. And let me just reiterate those: faster, safer, cheaper.
Yeah, we've got all.
Yeah,
we've got them. And
right.
Also, safer is make safety a prerequisite. Yeah. Experimenting and learning is what you just talked about.
That's
and
right.
Delivery is what we're all about doing. Constant,
continuously. Yes.
Yes.
So everybody at Amazon is encouraged to take chances. Most of these ideas that we want to try, you give a little bit of analysis, and if the analysis doesn't yield an answer immediately, it's worth an experiment. It's just like physics. Some developments can be made theoretically. Some developments are made only experimentally. Some are a combination of the two. So we have some of the world's best analysts in finance and in logistics. I think one of the things that Amazon does a little bit better than everybody else is package delivery, the logistics of moving packages in the supply chain. Mm-hmm. It makes it difficult for people to come after us because I think we do it a little bit better everywhere. Mm-hmm. So nobody's going to come along. I know the famous last words, right? Nobody's going to come along and disrupt the system. Maybe somebody will. If it's disruptible, we'd like to disrupt it ourselves first.
Okay, I know you cannot say much about this, but you're involved in drone delivery.
Yes. Okay. I'm one of the founders of the drone delivery program. There were 3 of us together. We cooked it up in a coffee shop one afternoon. And then we went off and did the analysis before we experimented. And then several videos have been released showing the successful results of package delivery to a customer. Mm-hmm. What did I want to say? Oh yeah, the thing to realize about drone delivery is that we really don't have a choice. The roads, even if it weren't cool and interesting and fun and exciting and inspirational, it's actually necessary. Mm-hmm. people order small packages from Amazon. They order them in ones and twosies. How are we going to grow this business when the roads in every major city in the world are completely jammed?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
There's a lot of room in 3 dimensions. It's surprising how much room there is up there, and so that's where we got to go. We have no choice about it.
And how do you make safety a prerequisite with something as crazy as a drone? I mean,
Well, we strive. Of course, we will not actually deploy the solution until it's safe.
Right.
What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's getting into very complicated areas. But consider aviation safety in general.
Yeah.
It is actually safer to get on an airplane than it is to walk down the street.
Yeah.
It may be safer to get on an airplane than it is to sit on the couch at home.
It's safer than a car, that's for sure.
It's certainly safer than a car, a bicycle, running in the park, you know.
Yeah.
So
fascinating.
The level of safety that's demanded out of aviation is very, very high, and we will not undercut that.
Mm-hmm. So the concept, too, of delivering value continuously, this is something Amazon does beautifully.
Yes.
Is it, what is something, you mentioned something Bezos said in 2005.
Yes, there was a directive that if you wanted other groups at Amazon to use your software, then you deliver it as a service. And people's eyebrows went way up. You mean I can't distribute DLLs anymore? I mean, this function call that takes 20 microseconds, you're insisting that I replace it with a service call that takes 20 milliseconds under the best of circumstances? Sounds crazy. But it's not crazy. It does 2 things. And I think this is the key to Jeff Bezos' mind. Jeff Bezos has figured out scaling in a general sense. How to scale a business, how to scale organizations. We're going to get to safety as a psychological thing. Just scaling in general. So one aspect of scaling is make sure that you do enough work to justify having a team. The trade-off is you can have a small team that delivers a DLL, a 20 microsecond function call, but maybe you're not doing enough in that software to justify the team. It forces you to right-size your software. You could need to do enough work to justify a 20 millisecond or even 200 millisecond service call. You have to do enough work, but I'm not going to let you have a 100-person team. So you right-size the team by trading off the number of people, which is always at Amazon. It's these 2 pizza teams. It's the size of a team that you can feed with 2 pizzas, around 10, 5, 10, 15. Organizations bigger than that don't really work effectively in Amazon's way of doing things.
Right.
In particular, if you get an organization that's bigger than that, then how are you going to do these fail-fast experiments? That's it's a different kind of challenge. But that's how you do it. You right-size the software. It's a forcing function.
And services are everything. Microservices are how Amazon delivers value continuously.
Yes, that's correct. And I think when you hit the retail website, there's something like 260 service calls that eventually happen. Of course, it comes up right away. We're not going to make you sit there and wait for all of those. But in the background, they're churning away, filling in the deals of the day, the recommendations, the discounts, whatever.
Yeah, awesome. And so the question I still have in my head is you're a physicist.
Yes.
How does a physicist get into software?
Yeah. I'm getting pretty old. I come from a generation of physicists where if you wanted something, you built it. And that includes computers. You want a computer system, you build it. And I felt very privileged when I was working at Princeton, which is close to Bell Labs, and I worked a summer with Arno Penzias. And he said, look, these guys down the block here, they've got a new operating system. I want you to try that out. So we got a Unix tape in the late 70s, and we started hacking the kernel because we had to. I had machines that I needed to operate. I needed to learn how to write kernel drivers. To write kernel drivers, you got to learn how the kernel works. You want to write kernel drivers, you need a programming language. So you learn how the C compiler works and how the debugger works. I've probably written 6 or 7 C compilers. Not commercial things, but physicist level things I need for my work. I need a dialect of C, and hey, it's my own compiler, so I can change it to do as I please.
Wow.
When I was working at JPL, we worked on a big machine called a correlator that took tapes from around the deep space network and correlated them by moving the tape drives back and forth until the signals lined up. So this is a big parallel and distributed computing machine. We learned how to do parallel and distributed computing right on the iron. So that's how I got into software, and then doing a lot of systems work. Hey, Microsoft shamelessly recruited me for a long, long time. I'm the dumbest guy who ever went to Microsoft because I only joined them after they went public. But but yeah, they. So I went and just worked on pure software for a while. But now I'm back in robotics, which is very close to physics, and I'm very happy about it to be able to bring all of that experience together in one place again.
So you're experimenting and learning rapidly. You're working in a way to deliver value continuously.
Yes.
You're certainly making safety an absolute prerequisite for
Absolutely.
what you deliver. And making people awesome is your goal for the customer obsession.
Absolutely. We want to make customers awesome. Yeah.
And internally at Microsoft, at Amazon, I know you worked at Microsoft.
Yes.
But is there psychological safety at Amazon?
Well, yes. It's very pointed. You're encouraged to take risks.
Yes.
And if there's an air or a culture where you feel like you're going to get stabbed in the back if somebody finds out that you made a mistake, it's not tolerated. Because how can you take risks if you're watching around the corner for that guy who's going to assassinate you
Right.
for making a mistake?
And say, oh, you're a low performer. Look at the mistakes you made. We're going to let you go.
Yeah.
Because you're in the bottom, whatever, quartile or that General Electric.
That old GE Jack Welch thing. Let's have a strong Darwinian system to weed out the low performers. There are low performers at Amazon. There are low performers everywhere. Anytime you get a group of people together, some of them are going to be better than others. So what do we do with the low performers?
Yeah.
Very simple. Another one of Amazon's famous, leadership principles that we take bloody seriously is hire and develop the best. So if we hire you, you probably belong at Amazon. If there's something wrong with your performance, there's something wrong. So we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it together. We're going to sit down and talk about it and figure out what's wrong, what's in the way. Maybe it's bad chemistry with one of your coworkers. It happens. So we move you.
Yeah.
Heidi
Helfand.
Heidi Helfand here is talking about dynamic reteaming, and where she has companies that move people around just to stir them up, to prevent problems like this from stagnation. And what happens with young people is they're very unsure of themselves. Now we have a high bar at Amazon. We hire people that can demonstrate their talent both in their education and in interviews. But people get stuck in circumstances where they're afraid to talk, and maybe they'll have a quarter or two where they're not performing well, and we will fix it. We will talk to them. We'll figure out what's wrong. I'm coaching several people who are not necessarily low performers, but I'm happy to coach low performers as well on things that they call opportunities, things that you're not doing as well as you might do. So you go look for somebody who can do those things better and to teach you how to do it. So it's a very open culture.
It's amazing. Yeah, I'm a big fan. And both as a customer and just what I know, I'm just talking to you and others about just how the company runs. It's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. It's getting very, very big. And that is going to be a massive challenge. And it's going to challenge my hypothesis that Jeff Bezos' secret sauce is scaling. So we'll see.
Yes.
Human pathologies are everywhere. They get entrenched in organizations, and who knows what will happen. But I think Amazon is better equipped to handle the challenges of scaling an enormous organization better than other companies. And by the way, we're still much smaller than Walmart.
Wow. Yes.
Much.
Yes. That's great. All right. Well, that's a good note to end on. Brian, it's an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Pleasure meeting you, and I look forward to meeting you again sometime. Thank you for coming and sharing some of your wisdom.
Great, Josh. Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Okay, over and out.